Next up will be Jim Gerlach, our congressman for the 6th District. The 6th District includes parts of Montgomery County, Chester County, and Berks County. The largest cities in the district are Reading and Norristown. He has his Bachelor's of Arts from Dickinson College, his Juris Doctor from Dickinson School of Law. Did I get that right? Lifelong Pennsylvania resident, grew up in Western Pennsylvania, and lives in Chester Springs, Chester County.
Very good. Thank you. How are you? Well, good evening, everybody. And thank you so much for the invitation to come by tonight and spend a few minutes with you and talk to you about what's happening this year politically and what some opportunities are for getting good people elected to the state legislature and to Congress. And thank you so much, too, for your activism and your interest, because I think we're seeing now an opportunity for a lot more people to get involved in this process and to really get involved in identifying and supporting good candidates for public office. And so your enthusiasm and your activism on that is a very, very important part of our process. I'm running for re-election to the 6th Congressional District. As many of you know, it's a very diverse district covering parts of 4 counties, Chester, Montgomery, Berks, and Lehigh County. It's a district that went with Obama by about 58% of the vote last year, one of the toughest Republican-held districts in the country. And it's a district that's now down to about 40% Republican registration, 60% Democrat and Independent, and a very diverse district from mainline mansions down in Lower Merion to Amish farms to growing suburbs to old steel towns like Phoenixville, Norristown, Coatesville, Reading. And so on the one hand, it's a very, very diverse district and fun district to represent because you get involved in all kinds of issues, from urban-related issues to environmental-related issues like open space and farmland preservation, and yet it can be very challenging as well from a political standpoint. I've been one of the top targets by the House Democrats every cycle. Back in 2006, I was the top target nationally. That was a year where they spent about $7.2 million to try to defeat me. We had some great support on our Republican side, great team of folks here in the district, and we were able to win that by about 5,000 votes. And I just happened to notice a few of the people within our committee that have been a big help in that process through the years. And this year, we face a very great opportunity as a Republican Party. We're down 39 net seats in the House of Representatives. And just a few months ago, while we all understood that we could maybe pick up a few seats in this midterm election, which is a normal thing that happens, the polling that's starting to come in from around the country and the quality of the candidates that are starting to come forward has really demonstrated a great opportunity to take the majority back this year from Speaker Pelosi. And so in order to do that, in order to net out 39 seats, which we need to do, we need to hold on to districts like the 6th Congressional District and also pick up some seats like the Joe Sestak District, right adjacent to mine, with, I think, a great candidate in Pat Meehan. Mike Fitzpatrick from Bucks County is running for his seat again this year against Patrick Murphy. Has a great opportunity there. We have 2 other, besides Pat Meehan, 2 other former U.S. attorneys that are running in other parts of Pennsylvania. And I think we just have a great opportunity with great candidates to win. And bottom line is, no matter if you're in the state legislature or you're in Congress, majority matters, because majority determines who the Speaker of the House will be, who the majority leader will be, who all the chairs of the committees will be, what the flow of legislation is out of those committees onto the floor, and even whether, what we're experiencing right now in Washington, whether even the minority party gets an opportunity to even have a say on anything that's on the floor, even amendments. And so, bottom line is, I think we have a great opportunity, but we need to come up with our best candidates. We need to have candidates that can win these districts and then contribute to a new majority. And what does that mean? Even if you get the majority, what are you going to do? Well, I think it's very, very clear that the American people don't want to go in the direction of President Obama and Speaker Pelosi and Majority Leader Harry Reid. They want to focus on jobs, energy independence, taxes, spending, and national security. And I think what you're going to see, at least from our side, you're going to see a sort of like a contract for America come forward here in this year that's going to really spell out in very common sense ways how we would govern differently if we were in the majority versus the other side. How we are going to use the private sector, the marketplace, tax reductions to stimulate job growth in our small business community. How we're going to lower regulations. How, from a healthcare reform perspective, we would use market-based, consumer-driven approaches, not big government approaches to healthcare reform. how we need to put a cap on the growth in spending, how I think 150 of our 178 House members have already co-sponsored a bill to actually undertake a constitutional amendment for a balanced budget here in the United States, which I think is long overdue, because that's the only way institutionally there's going to be a control on the growth of spending of the federal government.
Jim, some of the questions that the Tea Party group have put together for you, we'll get into some of those details.
Okay, well, let me stop there and go ahead.
All right, so let's go for it. So do you consider the U.S. financial system stable or unstable?
Part of it's stable, part of it's unstable.
So what
Depends on what sector you're talking about. The most unstable part of our financial sector right now is still in the credit area. There's not enough credit from our local bankers, our credit unions, the larger banks, for our small business owners. I get a lot of those folks coming to my office regularly, have great credit, and yet their lines of credit are being cut in half by the local bankers. Talk to the local bankers, and they give you concerns over how the federal regulators are coming in almost nonstop and putting a real pressure on them not to be lending more in the community, and that's a big problem as to why we've not seen progress in turning this recession around. So that would be one area that I think we really need to try to focus in on. And there's a number of different financial services pieces of legislation that I think would open up credit more, make it more available to our small business owners.
So what would you do specifically then to address those issues?
Well, as I say, there's a couple pieces of legislation. One would increase the amount that in the capital to debt ratios right now that these lending institutions have to work with the federal regulators on, make that a little more flexible so they have more opportunities to lend as long as they have enough liquidity, give them more flexibility. We want to make sure what's called the mark-to-market rule, that's how they mark or determine what the asset value is on their books. That's accurately reflective of what the current marketplace is. So if you have a capital debt ratio that's actually more flexible in allowing those local lenders to lend money, that would be a good way. I think on the Small Business Administration side, which is a great program to loan money to our small business owners, increasing the amount of money that the federal government would guarantee back to our local banks who in turn lend money to the small business owners. That would get a lot of support. The NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, which is the largest entity that represents small business, feel that would be a great way to open up the credit market a little bit for those business people. So there's a number of those issues.
How about the Federal Reserve? Are you satisfied with its role in the monetary supply?
No, I'm not satisfied not only the role in the monetary supply, but how they've conducted their day-to-day operations. I've co-sponsored a bill with Ron Paul to require an audit of the Federal Reserve to really see what their day-to-day conduct has been. Bear in mind, too, the Federal Reserve is not just what's in Washington. There's regional Federal Reserves, including the one in the Philadelphia region. So not only do you have to look at what Chairman Bernanke is doing on a day-to-day basis, but you also have to have an understanding of what's going on in the regional Federal Reserves. And they differ from region to region across the country in terms of their role in allowing for small business owners to have the kind of credit available to them that they need. So there does need to be much greater congressional oversight into the Federal Reserve generally. And I think that proposal to put an audit in place to really see how they're conducting that business is a great step forward for Congress. I think it has bipartisan support, and I think if we can change the chairman of the Financial Services Committee, who right now is Barney Frank, and make that Spencer Baucus from Alabama, we have an opportunity to move that legislation